I was 52 when I found out the man I'd loved for 3 decades wasn't just a liar. He was a whole performance. A husband, a father, and a ghost in someone else's story. We met when I was 20. He was charming, too charming, my mother used to say. But I didn't care. He had a way of looking at me like I was the only woman in the room, in the world. We married after a year, and I thought I was lucky. Blessed, even. He worked in sales, traveled a lot, said it was part of the job, always had a reason to miss holidays, anniversaries, even our son's high school graduation. But he always came back with flowers, gifts, and a crooked smile that somehow made me forgive everything. I didn't ask questions. I was loyal. I was raised to be. Cooked, cleaned, supported his dreams, built a home around his absences, raised our boy while he flew from city to city, supposedly chasing clients. 20 years of marriage blurred into 30. Our son moved out. I started teaching part-time at a local art center, trying to find myself again in the silence of our house. But nothing could have prepared me for the day I found a photo on his phone, a little girl blowing out birthday candles. The caption read, "Happy 10th, baby girl. Daddy loves you." I froze. I don't remember how long I stared at that screen. I didn't feel rage. Not yet. Just blankness. Like my heart unplugged itself. He had always kept his phone close. Always turned it over when he set it down. That day, he left it charging in the kitchen while showering. That one careless mistake unraveled everything. When he came downstairs, I had already seen enough. I didn't confront him, not immediately. I knew better than to act on emotion. I played dumb. I kissed his cheek. I asked him how work was going. He lied, of course. Effortlessly. That night, I couldn't sleep. I waited for his breathing to settle into that familiar rhythm. Then I got up and opened his laptop. Passwords. Easy. I knew them all. And what I found broke something in me I didn't know could still break. Emails. Messages. Hotel reservations. Receipts. Photos. Drawings from a little girl with curly hair calling him Daddy. Birthday cards signed by a woman named Vanessa. He hadn't just cheated. He had lived a full double life for more than a decade. He had another house in a nearby city. Another child. A partner. There were pictures of them together at school events, family picnics, even Christmas mornings, while I spent the holidays alone, believing he was working. I felt sick. Not just at the betrayal, but at how easy it had been for him to live 2 lives. How little I must have meant to him for this to go on so long. But I didn't cry. Instead, I opened a spreadsheet. Because what he didn't know was that I was the one who handled our finances. I knew I couldn't scream, couldn't throw things, couldn't even cry. That's what he would have expected. That's what weak women do in his mind. But I had one advantage he never considered. For over 2 decades, I had full access to everything: checking accounts, retirement funds, business documents, passwords. He was too lazy, too busy living 2 lives, to notice what I really was, the one who built his financial empire from the shadows. While he was off charming clients and working late, I was the one organizing receipts, filing taxes, adjusting investments. So, I made a plan. First, I copied everything: emails, text messages, bank statements, photos. I created a private folder and backed it up to a cloud account under a fake name. This wasn't for blackmail. No. I didn't want his money through threats. I wanted every dollar to walk away from him legally, quietly, and permanently. Then, I started liquidating. We had 3 investment properties under both our names. I put 2 of them up for sale discreetly, cashed in some of our joint investments. He didn't notice the withdrawals. Why would he? He left the money stuff to me. Over the next few weeks, I created a new account in my name only, one he couldn't trace. Slowly, I moved the funds. Then came the final touch. I visited Vanessa. Yes, her. I waited outside her daughter's school, watched from my car as Vanessa picked her up, kissed her forehead, smiled like a woman who thought she had it all figured out. She looked happy, too happy. I followed her home, not to threaten, not to scream, but to deliver a truth she had a right to know. When she opened the door, I introduced myself calmly. Hi, Vanessa. I'm the other woman. She looked confused, then horrified, then speechless. We sat down. Her daughter was inside playing. I didn't want to traumatize the child. She was innocent in this, just like my son had once been. I showed Vanessa the evidence. The wedding photos. Our family vacations. Our son's baby pictures. Our mortgage documents. His business filings. Tears welled up in her eyes. Then rage. But not toward me. Toward him. She had no idea. He told her I was a crazy ex who wouldn't move on. Said I was bitter, alone, and obsessed with him. Claimed he was divorced for 10 years. He even told her our son wasn't really his. That's when I knew what kind of monster I was really married to. We talked for hours. We cried. We laughed bitterly. And then, we planned. Because while I had access to the money, Vanessa had access to the secrets. The patterns. The lies he told her. She had emails, too. Messages. Gifts he sent from our joint account. She even had a key to an apartment he paid for under a shell company I helped him register. Together, we became something he never expected. Allies. Women who refused to be ashamed. Mothers who refused to be manipulated. We weren't his victims. We were his reckoning. Meanwhile, at home, he acted like nothing had changed. Still lying. Still leaving on business trips. He didn't notice that the fridge was emptier, that the house felt colder, that I no longer kissed him goodbye. He was too arrogant, too convinced I'd never leave, too sure of his double life. That was his final mistake. Because one morning, while he was packing for a 3-day conference, I handed him a letter. Not divorce papers. A final statement. Everything you've built, everything you've lied to protect, it's gone. Legally, quietly, and irrevocably. He laughed at first. Thought I was bluffing. So I showed him the bank records, the property sales, the new deeds. And then I handed him a photo of Vanessa and her daughter, standing in front of one of the houses I bought under my name with his money. He stared at the photo of Vanessa and her daughter for a long time. Confusion turned into shock. Shock into denial. Denial into rage. You think you can just, what? Steal my money? My life? I didn't blink. No. I took back what I built. What you never thought I had the strength to walk away from. He lunged toward me, his face red with fury, but I stood my ground. Don't, I said quietly. Don't embarrass yourself further. There was a calm in my voice that unnerved him more than any screaming ever could. Because he knew. I wasn't bluffing. I wasn't angry anymore. I was done. He tried everything over the next few days. Threats. Tears. Guilt trips. He even tried to manipulate our son, calling him to say I'd lost my mind and was destroying the family. But this time, I had already told our son the truth. And for the first time in his life, he didn't defend his father. He defended me. That shattered him more than any lawyer could have. Because the one thing he truly cared about, his reputation, his image as a respected family man, was crumbling. And there was nothing he could do. Vanessa had moved into one of the houses under my name. I let her and her daughter stay rent-free until they figured things out. Not because I pitied her, but because she, too, was rebuilding her life from ashes. We were no longer strangers bound by betrayal. We were survivors, sisters, and in our unity, we found something more powerful than revenge. Peace. But I wasn't done yet. There was one last thing I needed to do, not for him, not for Vanessa, not even for my son. For me. I attended his final company board meeting. He had no idea I'd be there. He was mid-presentation when I walked in, wearing the same burgundy suit I wore when I supported him at his first pitch to investors 15 years ago. The board was confused. He stumbled. What are you doing here? I smiled, calm, then handed every board member a file. Inside was everything. Misappropriation of joint funds, hidden accounts, personal expenses disguised as business, a timeline of his lies, my notarized declaration of withdrawal of my shares. The CEO's assistant turned to him, pale-faced. Is this real? I nodded. I was the co-founder, on paper and off. I just never asked for credit. Until now. The board voted to investigate, and within 48 hours, he was asked to step down. Not fired, not arrested. Worse, he was erased. No farewell party, no legacy, no portrait on the wall. He was simply gone. And I walked out of that building without looking back, because I didn't need applause. I had something better, my freedom. A year later, I live by the sea, in a house I bought in my name, with no one to ask permission, no one to explain myself to. I wake up to silence, not the kind that's empty, but the kind that's peaceful. Vanessa and I still talk. Our kids still meet up. Sometimes, I catch her laughing again. The real kind. The kind that comes from healing. As for him, last I heard, he's living in a one-bedroom apartment, trying to rebuild a business no one wants to touch. He still sends me emails sometimes. Empty apologies. Fake remorse. But I never reply. Because that's the part that haunts him most. The silence. People often ask me, weren't you angry? Didn't you want to destroy him? And the truth is, I did. For a while. But then I realized, the greatest revenge isn't screaming, or exposing, or hurting back. It's walking away with your head high, with your dignity intact, with your soul untouched. Let them live with what they did. Let them feel the absence of the person who once forgave them over and over, and finally said, enough. Sometimes, the best revenge isn't fire. It's water. Calm, quiet, but strong enough to erode everything they thought would last forever. They thought you were soft. They didn't realize silence is what storms become, once they've outgrown destruction.